Coming up, an airline pilot union takes a strafing pass on medical certificate reform.
Finding an affordable way to fly.
A flying adventure for some Florida youngsters.
And a veritable hive of Seabees. AOPA Live this week from AirVenture continues in just a moment.
From your first skyward glance, the dream of flight compelled you. And from your first glimpse of a Cirrus, you realized that dream had a name. Cirrus Aircraft. Go where you've never been before.
A new shot across the nose of medical certificate reform. Hello everyone, welcome to AOPA Live this week from AirVenture. I'm Tom Haynes.
And I'm Melissa Rudinger. They say pilots are a band of brothers, but it appears we've just broken into the Cain and Abel camps.
The Airline Pilots Association this week blasted efforts to reform medical certification. Union fired off letters to Congress opposing the amendment to eliminate the third-class medical requirement for many pilots.
Union pilots say that doing away with the third-class medical would, quote, allow medically unfit pilots unfettered access to the national airspace at altitudes up to 18,000 feet, which also include commercial airline traffic carrying passengers and cargo. The Airline Pilots Association says that the amendment introduces a level of risk within the national airspace that they cannot support. The union doesn't present any studies or data in the letter that support its argument. That's because the data shows just the opposite. Third-class medical certificate has no measurable impact on aviation safety.
Meanwhile, Senator Jim Inhofe says he needs 6 more co-sponsors to make sure the medical certificate reform amendment passes.
Yes, I've been out hustling, trying to get to 60, and I know it's kind of complicated. It's kind of in the weeds discussion, but in the Senate you got to have 60 votes, and I have 54 right now, 54 co-sponsors.
Right. Senator Inhofe says he needs your help to persuade 6 more senators to join the battle to get this passed.
And if you don't see your senator's name as a co-sponsor from whatever state you are, call him up and harass him. And timing's important.
It isn't.
Because by Monday or Tuesday of this coming week, we're going to have on a bill that I sponsor, it's the Transportation Reauthorization Bill, an amendment that will be the Pilot's Bill of Rights 2 that we're going to offer, and we're going to try to get it passed. If we're successful, then that will have to be signed by the last day of this month, and it'll be a reality. If it's not successful, we'll have to do it with just a regular freestanding bill.
You can see more of my interview with Senator Inhofe on AOPAlive.org.
AOPA is all about encouraging people to stretch their wings and their budgets by exploring the possibility of forming or joining a flying club. And here at Oshkosh, there's no shortage of those who took that advice and found learning to fly affordable and fun. It's a long way from San Francisco, California to Oshkosh, Wisconsin, especially for a relatively low-time pilot. There was to be mountain flying and tons of time across the plains, but Pete Russell and his buddy Dan Ashby, both originally from New Zealand, made the trip thanks in part to Pete's participation in a flying club that helped him not only find an instructor to join them, but also their ride, their Cessna 182.
There are a number of advantages of training at a flying club that I can think of. One's, again, the variety of the planes. You have the option of doing your training in a 152 if you want to, renting it, under $100 an hour. Will make it a lot more affordable. But if you have the money, then you can try a lot of different stuff.
Out of the blue, Pete called his buddy Dan in Canada to see if he wanted to share the cost and the adventure. Dan had some stick time in paragliders, but had never been to Oshkosh.
I'd never even heard of Oshkosh, to be honest. I was in an airport at the time about to fly to New Zealand, and they said, would you like to fly across the States to an air show? And I was like, yes, definitely.
It's a similar story for Scott and Kevin. They're hockey buddies. Both say flying clubs have helped them not only fly more, but truth be told, helped make them safer pilots as well.
Flying clubs are certainly an advantage, not only just for cost sharing, but they're also an advantage for camaraderie, right? You meet people, you hear stories. In fact, at the end of our flying club meeting, there's always stories that I always say to myself, I never want to be able to contribute to these stories.
Even when you can't afford to be flying, if you're hanging out with people that fly, you're still learning. You're still talking. You're still having the vocabulary, listening to the radios, hearing the stories. So you're always learning. You don't need to be in the plane to be learning.
Of course, you can find a flying club near you or even learn how to start one of your own by checking out the Pilot Resources tab on our homepage, AOPA.org.
It's not unusual to see vintage aircraft here at AirVenture, but a group of amphibs known as Seabees is getting a lot of attention. As Paul Moses discovered, Seabees have their own unique charm, and this year they brought it in force to the seaplane base.
So it's just a world. It's a great fun plane. It's a big old, slow, bulbous nose, fun airplane.
But don't you dare call them ugly. RC-3 Seabees are four-place all-metal amphibs Republic Aircraft Corporation hoped would appeal to PBY pilots returning home from World War II. Only slightly more than 1,000 were ever built. Many have since been modified, but only about 100 still exist today. So 13 all in one place is something seldom seen.
Originally, the Seabees were, well, you could say, a little underpowered, about the 215 horse motor on them. But Brian here has changed that in this one that you've done a lot of work on.
Yeah, that's true. When you take 215 horsepower out and you put 450 horsepower in it makes a bit of a difference in performance.
That's right, he replaced the original Franklin power plant with a Vet V8. Performance is safety. This plane jumps out of the water and flying it's a breeze.
There's so many unique features of it that you just love it. Like you're sitting here in front of the wing and in front of the engine. You can look, you're in a turn, you can look over the wing, you can look under the wing. Your visibility is not obscured by the engine. The instrument panel sits there nice and calm, doesn't get vibrated all to heck.
Double checking the gear to make sure it's up, the Seabee seems to settle into Lake Winnebago with ease.
It's about going out and having fun and being safe while you do it. To make a long story short, you don't fly a Seabee very long before you really fall in love with it. They are highly addictive.
At the seaplane base, Paul Moses, AOPA Live.
Robinson, who is an engineer by trade, made over 50 modifications to his Seabee. He's now working on a new design called the Horizon X2 that will be a 6-place amphib.
When we come back, getting the lead out.
And the kids are all right. AOPA Live this week from AirVenture continues in just a moment.
It's been called the most sophisticated single-engine airplane ever, but to the people whose loved ones are alive today, it's called a lifesaver. The Cirrus Airframe Parachute System, only from Cirrus Aircraft.
Welcome back. You're watching AOPA Live this week, coming to you from the world's greatest air show.
This is AirVenture 2015 in Oshkosh. Oshkosh is certainly not just for the boys. Hundreds of women gathered for the 8th annual Women Venture event. In fact, the photo set a record. It was the most number of women ever to participate. World War II veterans, the WASPs, held their annual place of honor in the front.
Swift Fuels is creating a buzz here at AirVenture. The company will produce 94 MON avgas. The fuel has a higher octane than autogas and is blended specifically for aircraft use. The company has a 200,000 gallon fuel blending facility, so the fuel will be ready to ship to distributors and FBOs. The unleaded fuel alternative will work in Rotax-powered light sport aircraft, many Lycoming-powered aircraft with a Swift STC, and airplanes that can run autogas. Meanwhile, the search for a drop-in replacement for 100 low-lead avgas continues. It's still early in the process, but AOPA Vice President Regulatory Affairs David Ward says it's coming.
We are essentially en route to our destination being the end of phase 1. So right now there are 4 fuels that are currently being tested by the FAA for multiple parameters.
You can learn more about the Piston Aviation Fuel Initiative at AOPA.org.
10 Florida high school students made their way here this year in a plane they restored themselves. All of them are part of the Lakeland Aero Club, a program designed to help teenagers learn to fly. It also teaches them a lot about working as a team and paying attention to detail.
You practiced this, you got this right. Nice job, you're getting it right so far. And you too.
We had this donated to us, and it was a mess. There was no fabric on it. It was pieces in boxes. It wasn't complete. It was just a big mess. And so we just spread it out on a hangar floor after school and started pulling pieces together, and I'd show them how to do the fabric covering and how to do repairs, and then they started doing it. And everything you see that's been done on this airplane has been done by these young people.
And the amount of people that told us, we couldn't do it is just It's outrageous, and you know what the facts are? This plane flew from Lakeland, Florida to Oshkosh, Wisconsin without a skipped beat, and it's here. We sat in Show Center in Vintage, and you know, we've been getting a lot of publicity because of this airplane that high school kids built.
The Lakeland Aero Club has now swelled to more than 50 members. One of them, Philip Harrington, had the honor of flying the L-18C Super Cub to Oshkosh this year.
And speaking of getting kids into aviation, Sean D. Tucker is at the forefront of inspiring kids to fly. He's chairman of EA's Young Eagle program. AOPA Live's Josh Cochran has the story of Sean honoring a pilot who inspired a lot of youngsters herself.
Hi, this is Sean D. Tucker, the Young Eagle chairman, and I'm flying with me, Miss Tessa, one of our great volunteer pilots at EAA. Woo-hoo! There we go, baby.
Tessa Howard has taken 148 kids on their first flight.
That means she has passion. That means that she wants to share that magic, and so for myself to have the opportunity to share that magic and give back, that's awesome.
It's one of the most rewarding things I've done. It's just awesome taking the kid, a lot of them, you know, for their first airplane ride.
Tessa loves seeing the expressions on the kids' faces and sharing the joy of flight.
Most of the time they get big grins on their face and can't believe they're in the air already.
Since the Young Eagles program started, nearly 45,000 pilots have volunteered to take kids flying. How many? Nearly 2 million.
I think the 2 millionth kid is going to be another momentous occasion. It's going to be magnificent, and it's coming up pretty quickly. It's going to be next year, and let's see where we go then. Let's see what we're going to do, because this is the movement. This is a genuine movement within all of industry.
The number of volunteer pilots with Young Eagles shows the spirit of giving in aviation.
This industry called aviation is full of the most generous, passionate people I've ever met in my life.
Pilots like Tessa are truly making a difference, getting young people into aviation.
The industry said we needed pilots. We're giving you pilots, baby.
Josh Cochran, AOPA Live.
Thanks, Josh. What a great way to introduce kids to aviation. That'll do it for us from Oshkosh this year. 3 great shows. Thanks for watching. Melissa, what was the best thing you saw?
I think the best thing I saw was the F-22 Raptor.
That was certainly the loudest thing in town, except for maybe the F-35.
True.
Lots of news out of the show this week. I'm going to try to navigate home using my new Garmin D2 Bravo watch, and we'll see where it is that I ended up. So maybe I'll be back in the studio next week.
Great. Well, hopefully we'll see you there. Thanks for watching.